We'll start at the University of North Carolina. Perhaps you've heard Bill Belichick is the head coach there. They're not doing too good on the field. Lost 38-10 against Clemson at home on Saturday afternoon. It appears now that, according to reports, 2 documentary projects have been scuttled, canceled, whatever you want to say it, within the program. It's my understanding that up until a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, there were camera crews and documentary crews in the building to do the Hulu and North Carolina documentary inside the Tar Heels football program. Well, it appears, according to reports, that that is no longer taking place. John, you've gone inside this UNC program over the last few months. What's going on here is probably too big a question because there's a lot going on here, but what's going on here?
Okay, can I just draw kudos to John real quick? So first of all, look at the presentation, like the mic. I'm jealous. Like I need to step my game up now. Also, I don't know if you guys saw the build up to John's sneeze just now, but I was like bracing myself with that microphone being as big as it is for just like an explosion of sound. And I'm impressed that John was able to multitask that even during the build up to that sneeze, was able to hit the mute button because I was bracing for it.
I appreciate the support there. I was worried about it as well. But hey, I'm a pro here. I make sure I mute. I've gotten yelled at enough by producer Aaron for typing while on this podcast. So I'm trying to get better about it. I mean, honestly, I feel like we could have just a weekly UNC corner on this show because every week they do something else that's stupid or there's some other embarrassing thing that happens at Chapel Hill. I don't know where it stops, to be honest. It feels like it's getting worse and worse. You go back, more than a week ago, Bill Belichick's getting spotted, enjoying a nice weekend of his girlfriend in Nantucket. Hey, I love Nantucket. Went as a kid, had a great time. It's not as great when you're coming off a terrible loss to UCF. All of that from an optics standpoint gets amplified. And I think that's really what a lot of this is that the optics of everything happening in Chapel Hill are terrible. And when you add that with the fact that it's been a disaster on the field, it's a disaster off the field, you have to wonder how much, regret there is. And I go back to, we've, I think, talked about it in the show. I know a lot of us heard about it at the time. We wrote about it. Like, this is not what athletic director Bubba Cunningham wanted. He wanted to go younger. He wanted to, bring someone in like a John Summerall type to, reinvigorate a program that had slipped a little bit in Mac Brown's final years. And here he is having to just endure what's been the biggest public relations disaster in college football this season.
Yeah, but John, what I think is particularly interesting about this is a couple things. First of all, Mac Brown could do better than this. Mac Brown did do better than this, albeit with a different roster because much of that roster left when Bill got on. And obviously this is where we'll touch on the manifesto, so to speak, that the GM Lombardi put out late last week to high-level UNC donors. It's long. I'm not going to read it off here, but paraphrasing some excerpts where he talked about his past rooting for the Philadelphia 76ers and how the Sam Hinkie model of tanking to win was not what they were doing. He said that he wasn't going to blame the previous regime in North Carolina for the talent that they inherited, but then proceeded.
Wait, Richard, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. He said in the letter that he wasn't doing the Sam Hinkie model of tanking in college football where tanking does not exist.
Yes. Yes,
that's fantastic.
John has also read the letter. I'm not kidding.
I have. Yeah,
he literally wrote that in the letter. It's way too long for us to put on the screen here. It's too long to fit in a text, but it's just really, really long. The other thing he said that they're going to take 40 freshmen, or they're going to attempt to take 40 freshmen, and he's going to make sure that those freshmen that they're in competition with Big Ten and SEC schools, and he's going to make sure that they're going to flip players from Big Ten and SEC schools so that they can stock this roster. It was filled with some nods to Nick Saban's loss to Louisiana Monroe in his year one, and Bill Walsh's lessons of coaching. It was all over the place. But
I love Zennitz's face right now, just like
it's all over the place. Chris, I think the question that I'll pose to you is like, how do you even start to dig out of this hole from a roster perspective from them? Because at the end of the day, they've maybe got like 2 guys who can play. I mean, the corner that they have is actually pretty good, I think. And then I don't know what you do.
Those two players they have came over with Steve from Washington. That says a lot about the evaluations this offseason in the portal. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
And I'll let Chris go, but the obvious way that you dig yourself out is by having a good strategy and approach from a social media standpoint in terms of your team Twitter account.
Zenit's got jokes today.
He really does. He's really on a heater today. The other thing about UNC that, yes, we should also note is that our Ross Martin was in the process of reporting that apparently a directive from the UNC football staff, Bill Belichick, guess who, had come down to say that we're not going to tweet anything about Patriots players. Many programs tweet the highlights of their former players in the NFL. It's certainly a common practice. UNC actually does it with their other players, but up until 8 hours after Drake May had the massive win over the Buffalo Bills on Sunday night, the UNC Twitter account did not post it. Well, as Ross and our editors were working on their story, after Ross tweeted about this, well, guess what UNC's Twitter account posted? But a highlight of Drake May. Again, 8 hours, 9 hours actually, after the game was over. So yeah, a lot going on with North Carolina. I think when we get around to it this December and we start talking about what they're going to do in the portal, what they're going to do in high school recruiting, what my question to you is, Matt, as somebody who talks to a bunch of these staffs, is like, how do players, I should say prospects, think about what they're seeing on the field? Because what we're seeing on the field is it's a team that can't play. It's a team that, in my opinion, is not just talent deficient. There's some mental lapses and some things they don't look like ready to go.
I'll say a few things with this. First of all, regardless of how good of a coach you are, year one is always going to be a process. So you brought up Nick Saban. Nick Saban is Nick Saban and was 7-6 or whatever it was year one at Alabama. There are a number of Hall of Fame caliber coaches, some of the best coaches that we've ever seen at the college professional level that have ended up having a great deal of success that struggled in year one. Again, year one is always going to be a process. The problem with this is that there are just so many, and I'm trying to think of a word besides embarrassing, but just so many ridiculous things going on behind the scenes to go along with the product on the field not being great, that it's just, frankly, right now, hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And look, there are respected people on this staff, both from a coaching standpoint and from a front office standpoint, working on the personnel side, to where those people have had success before at previous places. And there are some young pieces, including from recruiting standpoint, that you can look to that, if can hold on to certain guys from a recruiting standpoint, maybe it leads to step forward. But Chris and I talked during the offseason about this is going back a while ago at this point, but when Bill Belichick was first hired, it was important. It was extremely important to capitalize on that early buzz and to have all of that early attention that was on Belichick in North Carolina and turn that into being able to get some recruiting wins, and not only high school wise, but also being able to land some players from the portal that could make an immediate impact year one. And it's fair to question, it was fair to question then, it's definitely fair to question now, just how much they were actually able to take advantage of that, and them not being able to do so to the level that should have, or we would have thought that would have been able to be the case, has contributed to them being in a position now where the product on the field is what it is.
And not all that was their fault. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just going to say two quick things. One, this is a coach who legendarily hates distractions, and the way he's put this staff, his off-field situation, and everything else together is distraction after distraction after distraction. That's, in my opinion, one of the first problems. None of this would matter if they were winning, but it's hard to win in your first year. It's hard to win when you turn it over. The distractions are the part that's preventable, and that just keeps happening. Secondly, like the evaluations just haven't been there. Like this is a staff that in a lot of cases was recruiting against lower level P4 schools in the portal and recruiting and outbidding G5 teams to get their players. And like they put together a roster that just wasn't ready to compete in the ACC. That's the reality of it. And now they're going a different direction with a 73-year-old head coach and signing almost 40 high school prospects. Like, I don't know if that's the long-term solution for UNC, especially for a coach who probably isn't going to be there long-term anyway.
And that's the other thing. I think that, like, at the end of the day, you mentioned 73 years old. 4 years in, he's going to be doing this when those guys are 77, or when he's 77. They may feel 77 because of all this is going on. But go ahead, John.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think some of that, wasn't necessarily Belichick and his staff's fault. They were hired late in the game. Obviously, the signing period already started, transfer portal had already started. But there are multiple self-inflicted issues where they were slow to put together the staff. If you remember, like, Belichick took a very long time to put together his staff. That was wasted opportunity to be out there and getting guys. And I think, Lombardi has admitted that they did not understand the transfer portal period in the window the way they should have. But to me, that's another self-inflicted wound. If you want to make Lombardi, who is a GM at the NFL level, your top guy, I get it. But he needed to be surrounded by more college people, in my opinion. And I think the thing that you heard all offseason that to me has proven true to this point, which you talk to different college head coaches, GMs, whatever, they all talk about this arrogance that, was coming out of Chapel Hill, that we know better than you guys do. We did things at the NFL level. We had success there. Like, we're going to come in and just run this thing. And what you heard over and over again was that college is still very different than the NFL. There are some similarities. There's, new things that have popped up from a roster cap standpoint, contracts that maybe they are better equipped to than some of these college people. But college people have relationships. They know the talent better. And you have seen that play out with how this roster is put together and what we've seen in the on-field perspective so far.
To John's point about the arrogance, and this is something John has mentioned before on the show, like, there was arrogance towards agents and players, like with their offers. They were lowballing guys left, especially early in the cycle. It changed in the spring, but like during the winter when they were trying to get their feet established and start to really build off that momentum, they were lowballing guys left and right in the portal. And that's why they didn't get a lot of the guys they targeted. Like they thought there would be a Bill Belichick discount. And in this world of college football where like the tiebreaker usually, or at least often, goes to the team offering the most dollars, like that's just not the reality. Like Bill Belichick's name at least it seems like it doesn't carry the same weight as even like a Deion Sanders. Like you just look at television ratings and it doesn't carry the same weight as a Deion Sanders.